welcome to Social Engineering 101. Don't mind this is stupid. We are going to work. I actually rewrote this stuff, but then I restarted my computer and don't know where it went. I'm pretty sure I didn't save. So I am stupid, but let's get started. Also, if you have problems with my audio, I'm clipping or or I'm very loud or I'm speaking too fast or anything, please tell me. I have Discord open. Okay, so let's start with what is social engineering. Oh, before we start, I will have questions. I will host questions before after you start. So after I'm done giving the presentation, you can ask your questions anytime. But for sake of clarity, I won't be taking them as we go along. So if you have like a note that you can write it down to, then please. Okay. So what is social engineering? So I'm going to start with the like biblical context of it. So biblical definition, in the context of information security, social engineering is the psychological manipulation of people into performing actions or divulging confidential information. This is very, very nice and very nice definition, but it's not doesn't really show what it's like in real life. I will be providing plenty of examples as we go along, but anything. So social engineering is all around us. It's used in our stores, it is used in our advertisements, it is used all around us, and not just maliciously. There are examples of non-malicious social engineering. This uses main tenets of social engineering. In this case, usually urgency and familiarity and scarcity. This kind of social engineering you see in ads, but you see that everywhere. So, for example, TripAdvisor or not TripAdvisor, some booking app like Booking.com. In Booking.com, there is always, when you open your hotel app and you open the site for the hotel and then you look at it, you will always see that it's that there are only so many rooms left, or there's only so much time left. That's, for example, an example of social engineering. It's not true. There are always more rooms, but they use scarcity and urgency to get you to consume or buy that actual hotel room. This same tactic is also used at normal stores when you walk in. Discounts are a main example of non-malicious social engineering. Although they're required to write it down that it only lasts as long as they have supply, they usually have more than enough supply to serve everyone. They do discounts, cut percentages in set time limits to get you to buy, to make you feel pressure because of the urgency of the matter, because there's only so much time left. This is a tactic of social engineering. This is a tactic of non-malicious social engineering. However, we are not so lucky to only have non-malicious social engineering in our lives. We obviously have malicious social engineering. And this is what we are going to talk about today in the context of information security. So, so here you can see on the slide, what is it used for? Sorry, I pressed the button. So what is it used for? Stealing assets, sometimes data, sometimes money. Stealing is used loosely here. It's not really stealing, it's more of an acquisition, but don't get into the semantics. So what is used for it? It's, yes, stealing assets, sometimes data, sometimes money. This is really important because most malicious social engineers don't often target the large targets you might be familiar with. Their main targets, they are scammers or usual social engineers. So they abuse 6 key principles which are listed down there: authority, trust, intimidation, consensus, social proof, scarcity, urgency, and familiarity. And also, and this is where they usually do more damage and do corporations, for example, is this blackmailing. Social engineering can be very effectively used, or SE. I'm going to shorten to SE. SE can be very much used to blackmail, force people through blackmailing or stealing to do something so they can earn influence above a certain corporation or certain group of people. This is very important because this is the way terrorism is also a social engineering thing. This is like the kind of like hostage situation is also the SE thing. It's just to gain influence above a certain amount of people to force them to do things. Okay, so let's elaborate on these points, on the 6 key principles on social engineering. This is very important. These are basically built on bugs or glitches or exploits in the human mind. This is why I called it people hacking in the announcement, because it really is. The main purpose of social engineering is to sell you something or make you do something that you don't want. So they reuse these bugs to make that happen. Okay, so authority / trust. This is the first one, and this is the this is usually used in scams. Although it can come from, it can also be used in the aforementioned high-profile attacks. Authority trust. This bug basically means that the people are much more likely to listen to someone who comes from an authority, comes from a position of power, essentially. This is very important because scammers, especially in phishing, which I'm going to elaborate on later, they can say that they come from police, they come from law enforcement or tax collection or the FBI or the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, etc. Okay, and then the next sorry, I had a bit of Freudian slip. The next part is intimidation. The attacker, this is the most obvious part of most obvious human bug available. If you intimidate someone, threaten to kill their mom and dog, or I don't know, kill the hostage, or etc., this will make the other person on the other end much more willing to do whatever you ask them to do. This is a basic form of psychological pressure. We are all programmed to be afraid of psychological violence. Obviously, this can be undone with training, but obviously we will be most likely really susceptible to being threatened with actions, losing something or someone we love. Okay, the third one is the most interesting. It's consensus / social proof. So social proof is basically just jumping off the bridge if your friends jump off a bridge. This is very important because this is the main way scammers operate. Is that they imply that other people, or show you that other people have done what you have done. This is the way, for example, the Bitcoin miner, Bitcoin scam or hacker scam comments that you might see in YouTube comments work. Is that they show social proof with these bots that the person who wants to scam you has executed the task that they have told you that they provide successfully for many people, and as such, your brain is much more likely to believe that the talk tactic actually works, their service actually work, while that might not be true. This doesn't even need to be said. There's this experiment here that my sources cited that there's one or more people will look up into the sky, and then so many people will start looking up into the sky that other people that this traffic would stop because there was just so many people looking at the sky. Um, this is one of the more interesting ones, and this is one of the highest profit ones for scammers because it's so efficient, so really effective. Okay, scarcity. This is mainly a non-malicious social engineering tactic. As you see, the limited time only things, the hotel room that I told you about. You don't need to have actual scarcity. You just need to prove to people that there's actual scarcity. This works extremely well in selling things, sadly, and it gets a lot of money for a lot of people. Just to like clue you in, these scarcities are not real in 99% of the time. They are just generated by the seller to make you buy things. Urgency. This can be linked or not linked to scarcity. This is not as definitive as my stupid note says. This urgency is this is the main tactic of, for example, hostage takers, or this is, hey, you have 1 day or 24 hours or I don't know 12 hours or 6 hours to complete my demands or as the hostage will die, or you have this much time, to use a more closer example, you have this much time to decrypt your files before they are completely lost, pay me this much Bitcoin. This is a way to increase psychological pressure. This is a long-acting type of psychological pressure, because even if you aren't explicitly paying attention to the attacker itself, the attack itself, you also feel this pressure because you can feel, as you have a sense of time, you can feel the time ticking. This is a very good way to basically psychological torture someone, because it never stops, because you just feel the time just going on and on and on. And this gets worse as you approach the timeline. As you ever written an exam, taken an exam, or went to a job interview you didn't feel so prepared for, or went to the dentist. This is the same kind of tactic that they use and exploit. This is also a bug in our brain. Urgency doesn't necessarily mean, this also only works because for us urgency means importance, but and if paired with actual importance, the actual issue at hand can be blown out of proportion to our brains and how we perceive it. And the last one is probably the most familiar one if you ever worked with MLM companies. Familiarity and liking. People are very easily persuaded by people, their friends, their actual friends, not your high school friend who kicked you out of your apartment when you were 16 and you were going off home. It's actual friends and family members who can perceive to be the best. And this is why MLMs work so well, because they use people of familiarity to push their product. The best and the first example of this is Tupperware. Tupperware was the first example of this, and they were very successful because people trust their friends about this, or they used to. This is how also marketing by the word of mouth works. This is why a product only needs to reach a certain amount of people when it doesn't need to be advertised anymore, because it's self-sustaining. Because people just keep on passing the word and people trust them. This is the same kind of exploit that the attackers can use. This is very important in negating social engineering, because to get and this is what scammers exploit when they call your grandma and tell them that their son or daughter has died and that they need money or something. This is the exact thing. Okay, let's move on. These are the 4 main vectors of SE. There are a lot more actually, but for 101, this is what I thought to cover to just get you like hooked or introduced in it. So, wishing. The wishing is the most obvious and the most archaic method of social engineering. This is just talking on the telephone, basically calling someone. Or wishing can be like, technically could be like talking to someone on the street. This is using these tactics, as aforementioned tactics, these tenets, um, to gain access to private personal and financial information, or gain some dirt, or gain blackmail, or anything that they want. And it can be used for recon. So if you pretend to be someone on the phone and then call the corporation as someone, and if you can spoof their telephone number, then bam, you can get to information that you wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. Okay, this is the most archaic and honestly, in the kind of situation that you're going to use it in, or meet it the least used. There's what you will meet a lot more is phishing. You will all probably have heard of it. This it's marked like so my notes say that it's an email that comes from a legitimate business or something, but it can be anything. It can be a Viber chat, it can be a Messenger chat, it can be a Discord link, it can be anything. The main goal is the same as phishing. They want your bank account information, credit card information, or your personal data, which I failed to mention. These are very important to recognize, because otherwise this can be the most devastating form of attack. However, as it says, there can be a warning of some dire consequence or verification. These are very, very common. However, these are not the only ones. On Facebook, in my personal time working with this subject, especially on Facebook and Messenger, I've seen the following tactic. It's basically a few steps. First, get one person to believe an account or link. Basically, this link is usually pretends to be a video, and then it usually leads to a very often not very well made Facebook login knockout page, which is built to steal information. It's basically just a database. It doesn't get you anywhere. It's just made for you so that you can enter your credentials, and then it stores them. When they have your credentials, they enter your account. They log you out of your account wherever you are. Then they change the password so that you can't log in again. Obviously, or not obviously, to some, the most effective defense against this is strong multi-factor authentication. I personally use the 6-number tactic with an MFA or 2FA manager. It works well for me, but if you can more, you can set more security protocols in place, like smart cards or biometrics or any number of different verification purposes. It's important that in these kind of attacks that your account can only be unlocked with the possession of some knowledge or some device or some biometrics that only you have at you, and no one around the world can access it. Okay, so this is a normal phishing attack, but there are many other ways that they can do that. They can, as my notes say, they can send you emails, but you're pretending to be your bank or credit card provider or anyone. Honestly, you might have a personal connection with, and then they will tell you that, and from this, it can branch from anywhere else. I showed you one example of data stealing, but they can also use these kind of things to steal money. Actually, I will provide this link after the lesson. There's a really, really nice smart rubber video on this, where where they use phishing to steal money by pretending that they are an operator of the bank, and that they made a mistake with the money transfer, and that you need to pay some money to undo it. And then what they will probably do is that this is the most likely thing that they love to do. This they type accidentally a few zeros after the actual amount that you input, and then they send it, or pretend to send, because they're not sending it anywhere. It's in the notebook window, and then they tell you that you have to pay them that much and they can't undo it. So and then they demand like twelve to $20,000 usually, and then they can just package it and then they send it to mule, and the mule it brings it to usually India. I'm not stereotyping here. Most scams like this come from India. This is just a fact. So this is the this is a way to exploit people using phishing. I will talk about mitigation later, but I also do want to mention that the first and biggest thing that you can do is always check the URL and the little lock icon, and the email sender. Random numbers won't send you emails about your bank account and be legitimate. The accounts that will send you those emails will look completely different. They will look legitimate. You can also check online which company addresses are legitimate. And also when you open like a link like this, if it has a bunch of letters or random words in the URL, then it's probably fake. Always, again, take the URL and look it up, or look up what's the official URL or email address for the business you're supposedly dealing with. This is one of the best ways to protect against it. Also, watch out if your language skills are on that level. Always watch out for spelling errors, grammatic mistakes, or just structure building mistakes, or graphical mistakes as well. These companies don't pay a few cents for their graphic designers, so if these are off, then it's probably not real. Always save, always be saved than better. Sorry. Okay. Smishing. Smishing is a bit of an obscure one. It's not as often used, but it's also really effective. Phishing is basically the text message way of phishing. And yeah, as my notes say, these kind of FedEx FedEx messages are the most believable and most often used for these purposes. These FedEx messages state that you have lost a package, or you have to pick it up and you have to pay X money, and they usually set like a really common denomination so that you don't get suspicious. Most people don't order over $500 or $5,000. So they provide something like $2,200 a time, and then they just mail that to you. And you'll probably and if you don't check your URLs, you can end up providing your account details or actually give them money, and then they just run off with it. Smishing is also a type of impersonation, and the impersonation is the most hardest one to protect against. Impersonation is honestly, I don't know if you have played Team Fortress 2, but there's this character called the Spy who can be anyone, can take just a random face up or just a random mask and just become that person. This is the same kind of thing, because online you very rarely get the chance to actually verify that the person you're talking to is actually real. Very, very good demonstrations of this are learning someone's security questions in a bar, and then calling their or somewhere else, and then you're just guessing, and then calling their for example, not ISP, like cell service provider, like what is it, Deutsche Telekom or Vodafone, or all of these stuffs. So when they do this, they can log into your account pretending to be you with the safe words, and then tell them that you would like your number blocked or reinstated and SIM sent to another address or to your address, which then they can intercept, and then they have your SIM card. And it's a really, really easy attack to pull off if you have personal and physical connection with the person, but it doesn't have to be this hard. Phone numbers can be really easily spoofed. I won't go into that here. I will go into that later. spoofing means that you're basically pretending to be something you're not. In this case, you're pretending to be another phone number. Um, this is really hard to protect against because for a phone number, especially for businesses, because for your friends you can just say, hey, listen, if I think that you're being scammed or something and they have your number or I just don't trust you, I'm going to ask you this question, and only you will know this question, answer this question, and you can answer it then. This is really this is a good way. This is a very archaic way to two-factor authenticate someone, but it works. But most people don't do this, and you can do this with businesses. You can just ask Walmart to, I don't know, have a really special question with you. So when they spoof the number, essentially neither you or your phone have a way to look through that and understand that it's not coming from the person that you're pretending to be. It's actually really interesting how they can do this. I'm going to go into it later. For now, it's very important to understand that this is one of the hardest to protect against attacks, and these are one of the most successful. But because of the extra added spoofing step, it's rarely and it's not often used for general scamming. But it's rather used to just get information out of someone. It's a more personalized attack because it takes some more time. Okay, this is the main thing that we're interested in. This is the part where you come in. This is the quote unquote cybersecurity part for this. This is really important. So this is the way good social engineering scam or attack rather works, because if there's the cycle like this, we are talking about like more than just lying to someone or asking them a stupid question. So the first 3 points, we have to identify the victims, gather some intel, gather the background information, who they are, what they're doing, and then we have to select attack methods or method. Thank you, by the way, I stole that. So what we are doing here right now basically is we're just scouting who the person is. This is really easy. It can range from anywhere from reading on their Facebook profile, reading on their Facebook profile, and maybe like looking them with Yandex, because Yandex can index faces, and doing some OSINT work, looking at trash, etc. The basic stuff. And then you choose the attack methods. You choose one of the vectors to convince your targets of something. This can be for anything. This is because we're talking about a specific attack itself. We're going to talk about a more personalized approach to this, so a more spy movie approach to this, which means that our processes will probably be somewhere along the lines of seduction or lying or getting just scouting out where they hang around and then getting personally to know them and bothering them up, basically. This will be our case, but obviously if you don't want to do that, you're a spy from China and you don't want to travel, you spoof a phone number that they might know, and then you send them a message and they steal their data. Obviously this is easier said than done, but we aren't here to go into very specifics. So next, we deceive the victim or the victims. There can be a group of people to gain a foothold. We start making a story or scam, sham, or fugazi, as Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey said, it's really just about making stage for you to play them around with, or like a box, if that makes more sense, a simulated environment where you're in control. So you get to the target, you make a story, their mom died or something, or if you are talking more that a server data center has gone down somewhere, And then you start with conversational methods. You start taking control of the interaction. Then you can just, unless you're torturing them at gunpoint, you probably won't be able to get all the information you need. So you build a story. You build it. All good lies have elements of truth in it. So as much truth you learn, you build it into your story, and then you execute the attack. You go to that place somewhere. You get to their flat and steal their data. Then you get into a system. You get granted authorization to somewhere, etc., etc., etc. There's so many ways to after these steps to get into somewhere, get what you want. We'll go into that later. And you can sabotage. Social engineering is also really important for sabotage. To disrupt the business, to stop servers, to etc. And they steal data. Either by gaining through access to the person and asking questions, or just getting access to the system and then moving on from there. And then you close the interaction. We call this bailing in professionally, or just fucking off. Sorry, it's honestly just getting out of there. If you install malware, removing it. If you talk to the person, ghosting them. If you had an email correspondence with them, deleting it and changing your email address, deleting it. Or you can, especially in social interactions, you close the charade, you bring to the national, hey, I have to go. Hey, something came up, my mom died, etc. There are many countermeasures that you can take. These are very important, because these are what your company relies on. If any of these are not met, your company can be crippled by one attack. So it's really important that you, especially if you're working in a position where you know about this, you need to do these things. Okay, so training employees. Training employees is the most obvious one. So sitting them down like I'm sitting you down, and telling them what's up. Tailgating came up here. It's very easy. It's basically if just following a person who has authorization into somewhere inside a space. Just someone has a key card, and it's like an unsupervised position. They click their key card, they let in, and then you just don't let them close the door, and then you just walk in behind them. People don't even notice usually unless they're trained. Because they, especially if you're wearing the appropriate uniform, they just think that you're another person working there just trying to get in. Okay, the standard framework. This is your defense. This is your shield against these attacks. This is your base of what you're working with. These are rules, specifications, guidelines, protocols on how is, the four W's, when, where, why, how, these kinds of information should be stored. These are really, really important, because these are what prevent your information from leaking. This can be anywhere from the building, for example, data centers contained into the server itself, who can get into the protected areas, how do key cards work, etc. And also you have to identify. This is scrutinizing information. By the way, we moved on. This is you have to identify which information is sensitive. If you don't know which information you should keep to yourself, you will inevitably lose it or share it. So it's honestly very important to measure how much you need to protect a certain data that you have, like an agreement or something. So like it can range from anything from mundane administration or to actual trade secrets. You need to very accurately measure and evaluate how and where should these be stored, and how many locks. This is also one of the most important things, because if you don't know, it's just basically, if you don't know which information you need to protect. You will don't know how to protect it. So this is probably one of the most important parts of this. And then as with the standard framework as well as security protocols, these work together. You need to establish these protocols, policies, and procedures for handling that kind of data, be that on paper, on hard drives, on SSDs, it doesn't matter. You need to very, very clearly tell people and give you consequences for handling or mishandling sensitive information. Event test. This is honestly, this is just a very nice way of saying a spot check. These are basically unannounced periodic. So you don't say and specify the exact date and time, but you do say, hey, maybe from these days to these days. And then you will have professionals pull these off. They will try their best to attack, and then they will tell you what issues you have. Or you don't do any of that, and you just look through your papers. You check against policies and frameworks, and you just check against what the industry standard is right now, and you devise tests for your specific use case and then apply them. And if you fail them, then you have to make changes. Inoculation is probably the most interesting one for a person who doesn't know anything about this. Inoculation is basically vaccinating people against social engineering. This is usually used in individual or very small groups of probably high-profile targets. These are mocks. These are mocks, mock attempts to they obviously won't kidnap your daughter, but what they will do is they will teach. They will make something happen. They will say like, "Hey, your mom died," or something, and they will ask for this and that. And if you give them this and that, they tell you, "Hey, you failed," or "Hey, it's not okay. You need to do this and this to not get like this anymore." This is very important because good inoculation doesn't involve telling the person that they're being inoculated. The reason this is because you need to get through there. This is a kind of like necessary pain because you need to get through your subject through actual pain to make them feel panicked, to actually make them feel not panic later. So they have to see, they have to see the monster in the face before they can probably say, "Hey, I'm not scared of you anymore." They have to be exposed to this to act responsibly and not through their feelings. And obviously there is the solution to everything, just reviewing everything that you do. Every step above mentioned, you just do it. And here's like an actual step that I didn't include here, but I thought I would mention anyway. Checking your trash is actually really important, especially if you're a bigger company. Using proper logged trashes and proper just destroying your data before it leaves the environment, and then keeping it also the shredded data safe, because even paper shredders can be puzzled together after a certain amount of time. So it's very important that you also keep your trash safe, and then you keep you keep everything around logs, and you hire special services for this kind of stuff. Okay, this is where my show would end, but I also thought, and I didn't include this because my save got destroyed, some personal examples of social engineering, good social engineers. These are scammers, and it's really important that you don't idolize them in any way, because they were not idols, they were criminals, but they were good at what they did. Probably the most controversial example of this is Kevin Mitnick, who was a social engineer who was also a security consultant and a specialist, and he had a really high-profile arrest for many social engineering, hacking, and related crimes in 1985. He was really proficient and really famous or infamous for his acts. Frank Abagnale is probably the most well-known social engineer in the world. As you know, if you have seen the world, You Catch Me If You Can movie, uh, you can. That movie is about a very, very successful, young, and talented social engineer who used counterfeiting and forgery to execute attacks. He didn't really steal money per se, but he did deceive people very, very efficiently. He was a very, very good forger. And for example, his most famous attack was probably when he faked being a Pan Am pilot by taking that story is actually true by taking off the stickers of the tail ends of Pan Am planes that they sold, and they're putting them on checks. It worked. It worked very well. Obviously now you would think that social engineering has become much much harder because we have so much time and effort and everything that we spend on protecting against these things, against for example forging and counterfeiting. But the truth is, social engineering didn't get harder. It changed, but in most aspects, especially when we are considering online things, just general, it became much much easier. It's much much easier to convince someone that not that you're someone else, that you telephone and your phone and your internet and everything. It's become much much easier. As you know, Frank Abagnale was very very prolific for how old he was. He was 15 when he started, and he practiced medicine for a while, and then he moved on, and he actually passed, as much as fraudulent as he was, he passed the bar and became a lawyer and was a practicing lawyer for some time. But then he was caught. He served some prison time and worked at the FBI for as an analyst at a prison to help them catch other counterfeiters and forgers. Okay, it's 45, so I thought that I think it's time for questions.